you might want to go with that option. We can also find the missing dimension of a triangle the way we found the missing dimension of a quadrilateral. So I would want to make sure that I had identified my base and my height, that they make a 90-degree angle. Once you have your base and your height at a 90-degree angle, figure out what you have and what you're missing. Area equals 1/2 base times height. Most people think that the 1/2 times base times height is a little easier to solve, to do steps to both sides. You could also go with base times height divided by 2. Whichever one makes more sense for you as an individual. If I have this one, 1/2, the base is 7, the height we don't know. Well, why did I put an A there? I'm kind of under the habit of doing that, but now we know the area. We were given the area as 112. So I'm going to take out the A, and I'm going to substitute in its place 112. If I'm over here, I'm going to substitute 112 in place of the A. Base times height divided by 2. On this one, 112 equals 1/2 times 7 times W. Over here, I'm going to need to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of this one. So multiply by 2, multiply by 2, squeak it in there on the edge. So 224 equals 7W. Divide both sides by 7. So 224 divided by 7, going to be 32 equals W. I'm not done. Technically, go back up to the other option. If I did 1/2 times 7, that's 3.5 or 3.5, and divide both sides by 3.5, get the same answer, 32 equals W. And you would have to give a final answer, which includes your units. So the height is 32 feet. So you do not need to do both. Please do not do extra work, but you need a formula. Pick from the two. You need to substitute your numbers, and you need to solve. And your final answer has to have some units. The one next to that has a base and a height that make a 90-degree angle. They gave us the area, so when I get to substitution, I can substitute that 21.06. Area equals 1/2 base times height. You notice that this one's got a decimal. You might say, I'm going to go 0.5 times base times height. 21.06 times equals 0.5 times 18 times x. I can do half times 18. Half of 18 is 9, so 9x. And divide both sides by 9. And I get 2.34 equals x. Final answer, the height is 2.34, and I look up here for millimeters. You might find that that looks a little strange. You're like, why? Why is the height only 2.34 millimeters? But it looks so much bigger in the drawing. Not every diagram is drawn to scale. You need to rely on your algebra skills to find the missing lengths, dimensions, and not relying on eyeball or a ruler. At the bottom, we've got another one of those triangles where the dimensions are not always going to be touching. This one, the dash has been replaced by a solid segment, which happens sometimes, but we're looking for the sides that are at a 90-degree angle to each other. That side that's labeled Y is your height. It's at a 90-degree angle to the 0.75 that is your base. Got a decimal again, so you might find that you want to go with the 0.5 base times height. Area we know is 3. 0.5 times the base. And we don't know the height. The side that's the height is labeled with a Y. 0.5 times 0.75 is 0.375y. Just simplifying the right side as best I can before I divide both sides. If I divide both sides by 0.375, I get 8 equals y. Just a second.
Brooke Dontermont, can you call extension 3000? Brooke, thank you.
There you go. So y equals 8. Well, if I go back up here, y was the height. So the height is 8, look at your units, inches. And I would be done with that one. D, last one on there. Those of you who are remembering back a couple weeks, we have these isosceles triangles once in a while that are a little bit tricky because the two sides both have a variable. You don't have that second number you would expect. Make sure that you still identify your base and your height. All right, they make a 90-degree angle. So the area formula, base times height divided by 2, or 1/2. Base times height, your call. Area we know is 72. 1/2 z times z. Really important on ones like these that you substitute those letters because they're the same letter. 72 equals 1/2 z squared. In order to get rid of that, one second. In order to get rid of that 1/2, you'd have to multiply by the reciprocal. Some people would look at this and say, oh, maybe I picked the wrong version. You could also go with 72 equals z squared over 2. That's going to work as well. In order to get rid of the 1/2, you'd have to multiply by 2 and multiply by 2 so that those cancel. 72 times 2 is 144 equals z squared. And then I would need to say, oh, the opposite or the inverse of squared is square root. 12 equals z. If I look back here, the base and the height are 12 meters. Have to label both, the base and height are 12 meters. Now that might be one of the problems that you guys come in with when we have sort of a, a discussion tomorrow where we're available on Google Hangouts. That might be one of the questions that you want to see another example. That would be a great one to ask for. It's not going to go away. The isosceles triangle where the two sides that are the same are both missing. That one comes up a lot, especially on assessments, quizzes, tests. So don't forget about this one. It's going to come up more than once. Please make sure that you're checking in with your advisors on a regular basis. Please make sure that if you have questions for us, that you're noting them down on the papers as we go, that you have something to come into the chat sessions or emails, that you have questions to ask so that we have things to go over with you. Can't wait to see you. Thanks, guys.